Hey friends, my name is Hannah and my this is the first official little episode, I guess, but this cute little podcast is just me talking about the things I'm thinking and feeling as I am trying to figure out how to earn a sustainable income. There's so many different topics that surround that. Um, but what I'm thinking about today has to do with the burnout. And you know, I was just thinking when we are burnt out, it that is a call for flexibility. That is a call, you know, our body and mind giving us pain, not to harm us, not because it's failing us, but giving us pain to say this is the key so that you can learn who you actually are, what you actually need in order to thrive and to switch to a more sustainable lifestyle. Because a lot of us, we're just raised in survival. And so we survive in ways that aren't sustainable. And we can use all these techniques to stay afloat and stay happy for the moment and survive. But over time, we start realizing, like, oh God, is this it? Like, it's just hell forever. It's just these constant, like, does it have to be this hard? Or maybe we remember a time of our life where it wasn't that hard. And we're like, okay, what went wrong? And a lot of the times, all that went wrong is that who we are changed. Our needs, our desires, our limitations, our wounds, our convictions. These things have just changed. We become a different person. So we have to start to learn just to relate to ourselves in a different way. By relating to ourselves, I mean the way that we partner with ourselves in order to make decisions that are self trusting, where we just establish a new set of inner emotions and narratives that we have while we are feeling the same feelings and while we are, making decisions that we would have to make anyways. So, I'm not sure if I said that in the most clear way. I doubt it. I'm more of a writer than I am a speaker, but that's a part of why I am doing this podcast and this YouTube channel for the past year in general, because it's really important to me to learn how to flesh out my thoughts more, like my convictions based on my experiences, so that I can use words to have more genuine bonds with people and to advocate for myself in ways that I couldn't when I was younger, and just to try to, use the power of words to make life a more fair, safe place for myself and other people as much as possible. Because words are magical. I'm noticing this is a little crooked. It's probably still a little crooked. Anyway, um, so I wanted to share something that happened today related to the topic of burnout. So I told a client that I would have to reschedule an appointment with her because I was experiencing burnout. And, she was very kind. She said, "Oh my goodness, like, I'm sorry you're experiencing that. You must be doing a lot." So what do you think of if somebody um told you, like, you have burnout, you must be doing so much. Like what are those first thoughts and emotions that you have in response to that? My first thoughts and responses to that are to tell myself I'm not doing much. And in some ways it's true, in proportion to what I know I'm capable of. I know I'm not doing much. But that doesn't mean I haven't earned the label of burnout, because what burnout means is simply that we don't have the right support that we actually need as an individual. Not what some other person over there needs, but what, like, who we are as an individual with our own strengths and limitations, um and needs and wounds and desires, all of the combination of things that both boost us up and drag us down, the support that we have, the things that keep us in balance and functioning freely and sustainably, and you know all those factors, those lifestyle, both inner and outer lifestyle factors, just those ways of being a human being in the world. It just means that when we are burnt out, when we consistently feel depressed, when we consistently feel drained, when we consistently feel like it's pulling teeth to try to do things that we don't want to do, but we feel like we have to do it to survive, or we have to do it to be a good person, or to be logical, or to prevent people from harming us. When we are in these, we notice these emotions and experiences of burnout. Um, and for a lot of us, side note, a lot of us, we've been burnt out our whole lives and haven't really known anything different. So it's kind of funny for us to use the word burnout, because we're like, well, I used to just call this depression or life fucking sucks, but now I have this more empowered word burnout to use to describe it. Um, but all that means is that our actual needs are not being supported. Our actual strengths are not being utilized. Our actual desires are either being suppressed and ignored, or demonized, or just ignored. You know, basically, it means that we aren't, burnout just means that we are learning, hopefully, we are privileged to be in that process of learning who we actually are, so we can nurture who we actually are compared to who we think we should be. And it's really interesting because a lot of the ways that we've been taught to survive in the world, all the regular, go to college. I didn't go to college. Nobody encouraged me to go to college. But, I'm talking about the stereotypical things of go to college, get a regular job, your 9 to 5, one or the other, or a combination of those two things. That has never been an option for a lot of people. And depending on when your point of burnout has been in your life, maybe it's just not an option for you anymore. So we start to get into these positions where we're like, oh, like we have to be partnering with fellow people so that we're not trying to take on so much responsibility, forcing ourselves to survive, to be in job environments that aren't made for people like us, people with our own set of interests and values and strengths and limitations. We have to all come to that place in our own lives where and the first step, I think, is setting ourselves free from shame, because the only way to have all this self-awareness to where we are even in a position to start um inquiring into who we actually are and how we can get out of burnout through nurturing who we actually are. The only way we can get to that place is when we stop shaming ourselves and having this really like harsh perfectionistic survival narratives and ways of talking to our own selves, because that keeps us stuck in this situation of like just taking responsibility and blaming ourselves, and not realizing like we're not meant to take on the weight of the world. And for some people, like whatever lifestyle we think we have to have in order to survive, for some people that lifestyle, they're actually well suited for it. It doesn't mean that lifestyle is inherently wrong, but it means it's wrong for us. And The only way that we're going to be able to interpret our emotions correctly is if we don't demonize ourselves. Or not even demonize, but if we take ourselves seriously, because a lot of mental health help also, it's based more on telling us, like, you know, when you feel upset, use all these coping techniques to make yourself ignore that and feel happy and not ask whether you might have a need that isn't being fulfilled, and it just keeps us, it can keep us going longer, surviving longer, but then you do get to that burnout point at some point. It is a heavy topic, and I have all these other thoughts that are coming, but it's hard to, like, catch on to all of them as they go past. But yeah, so if somebody else says to you, or you say to yourself, I I can't be burnout, or maybe I'm not really burnt out because I'm not really doing that much. Just ask yourself, like, if I'm not being harsh on myself, if I'm fully taking my thoughts and emotions at face value without doing all this emotional labor, intellectual labor, to manually override and change myself, to, like, brainwashing myself to perform the thoughts and emotions that are acceptable or I'm supposed to have. If we're not doing that to ourselves, or using really harsh shaming techniques to be like who cares about you, like, to ourselves. If we're not doing that, we're just like, okay, thanks for the information, thoughts and body. I want to enjoy life, so we're going to listen to this data here, take it into account. If we do that, then it's really revealing, just to be like, oh, I actually am burnt out because my needs are just not being met. I don't have the right support. Like, what, for example, when I'm at these house sits with dogs, for a long time I used to tell myself, like, oh, like, I am so weak, I'm so undisciplined, I am so, flawed and fucked up by my past. I'm never, like, this is all proof I'm never going to be capable of any type of sustainable job, or blah blah blah. I used to tell myself stuff like that while house sitting. And then the past few months I started to be more like, actually, this is, like, my pain and my being drained, and going into distracting addictions, like tons of TV and, like, negative, crime related things to try to distract my mind, these things that made me feel bad. The reasons why I was doing this, it was because I was trying to distract myself from an unmet need, which was being lonely. It was like feeling isolated, feeling like, you know, like I'm just here at this random house without much stuff to do, um, without, like, the things that I do like to do, without the ability to do that, like, away from home, away from my routines, away from the comforts of home, away from my boyfriend, who I, like, we do all kinds of stuff with. Like, we go to the gym, we go on walks together, we play video games together, we, like, my social support, that amazing person in my life, like, gone from him. So it just helped me to realize, like, sometimes it's not so much that we are burnt out because we're doing so much, but it's like, I can't really do that much under this set of conditions. So it's not like I'm just inherently, you know, extremely disabled or weak, or whatever the things we might think in our minds. It doesn't mean that we don't have any strengths, that we don't have any areas of, like, immense power and capability. When we experience burnout, it just means that we're not, um, in touch with that part of ourselves that is highly equipped already. We're not seeing evidence of that because of our lifestyle. And, um, you know, our lifestyle is so important to nurture us, to give us energy, to give us hope every day, to give us inspiration every day in order to be capable of doing more and have that like emotional energy to care, because sometimes the alternative to motivating ourselves through shame and punishment or like, thoughts of revenge against other people or like freedom from other people or things like that, which is all good stuff. But another alternative is being motivated by love and connection and feeling restored when we're around certain people, feeling restored and a boost of energy when we do certain activities. And I think it's important to remember that with burnout, we don't have to, I don't know, just, I'm remembering this for myself that some the right activities, the right setup in my life, when I have the right resources and all this, it's like everything I'll be doing will be giving me energy more than I'm being drained. So it will be a lot easier for me to do things compared to like with how things are set up now. Is like things that should be easy, and that in the past it used to be easy for me because I would just force myself out of brute survival, and my needs were different then too in some ways. But yeah, so yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit about burnout. And there's a lot more that can be said on the topic, and I would really love to hear what are your thoughts on burnout, and how are you relating to this in your own life. How are you, where are you in your process of burnout, um or your process of understanding what burnout means to you, or your process of learning who you are now, and you know how to get how to identify those unmet needs, or how to fulfill those unmet needs. And just like in the meantime, I don't know, best of luck. We're all doing the best that we can to cope with the horrible, let's say suboptimal parts that are present in our current lifestyles, which are reinforcing this burnout, you know and it is, just validating that it is really hard to learn these parts of ourselves that we've never been acquainted with before, and to figure out a whole new way to orient ourselves towards being alive and making decisions and investing our energy into different projects or people or commitments. Like it's a huge thing. It's and and I just think it's beautiful that myself, and probably yourself if you're watching this, other people out there in the world, that um we even have the privilege, for one, to learn about these parts of ourselves, and also to really honor the sacrifices that we've made to get into this position, um of having these privileges, and sometimes sacrifice, it doesn't look like pain on the surface. It looks like in the future, we look back and are like, oh, I was suppressed. I was making a sacrifice that I didn't even know I was making it at the current time. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's beautiful just to consider, hey, this is the path. It is not not ideal, but it is worthwhile. And creative expression for me is the thing that is really helping the most. Just to write, to speak, thing things that help me regularly process and like, I don't know, like kind of like integrate or summarize all the things I've been learning about or the different ways that I've been thinking about things recently. That's really important to me. And I think an important way of getting out of burnout is also partnering with fellow people. And you have to learn how to express yourself authentically, express yourself according to the updated version of you, you know, who you actually are now, so that you can even make those partnerships based on trust with fellow people in order to get access to different kinds of resources and supports. Resources and supports doesn't just mean money. It also means community. It means amazing people who get you to understand different sides of yourself through the way that you affect them or the way they affect you, vice versa. Um, resources are access to practical things that help your health change for the best. And I think it's a really hard thing in life where we have these hopes and desires of things improving, but we can either be so frustrated at the magnitude of it all that we just say like fuck it all, like can't even think of it, it's too painful, or we start being um hyper analytical, overly responsible for trying to control everything, trying to predict everything, running ourselves ragged, trying to force things to change. So I'm at that weird stage where I'm like, okay, I do have to, you know, still know that I have aspirations for the future, follow my emotions that I have in the moment, follow that emotional feedback to learn more what is like who I actually am and what my needs and limitations and all that are, but to balance that with also like I have to enjoy the moment, you know like I have to not just see things as like it is also deprived, it is also suboptimal, it is also like I do really have to see more of the magic of like what are all the really beautiful positives, and something I'm doing lately is giving myself more permission to see myself and my life in really beautiful, aspirational ways. Like, oh, I am like from 10 years ago, I am that version of myself come true type of thing, and just allowing myself to kind of be like, I've been having that feeling lately, like, I could die tomorrow. Life time goes by so quick. Life is going to be gone like that, and maybe I will never have gotten to like a perfect place in my life where everything is sustainable because the world is disgusting and broken outside of me. And it didn't set me up for success. All these things, but at least despite it all, I can make sure that I'm enjoying things in the moment and I am like I don't know, fully taking advantage of all the privileges that I do have access to. Like, just being like, I have this beautiful, calm apartment that, yeah, I'm gone from it a lot doing these dog sits. I really don't want to do those dog sits. But, when I am home, like, this feels like my haven here, And, like, I do feel just, I don't know, just so appreciative of it. It's so beautiful, and I get to move around freely. And yeah, so anyway, the last note I just want to leave this on is if you're in suboptimal situations that are causing you a lot of stress and pain, I don't know what I'm just doing lately, and I really, it's really on my heart to like encourage this in other people also, is to, if you're telling yourself like, if I'm telling myself I should be, I don't know, dancing or exercising when I'm at these house sits, instead of just like forcing myself to do it with this sense of like anger, um, and like being out of control in my life, and like I have to force myself to do this to survive, and like I'm all alone. Instead, trying to see it as um, like first coming at it from that perspective of grief, where I go through the full emotions instead of just landing on what my end point should be, but be like, yeah, I do feel so much grief. Like, I am depressed here at these house sits. I am alone. Like, I am, like, my whole life has had so many fucked up things. It's real. Like, society does let us all down. Like, being real with that. And then from that, letting those true emotions infuse my movements. You know, if I'm telling myself, like, I have to fight for myself, like, I have to dance, I have to exercise, and like, you know, letting that grief come through, and then through that letting it be a part of my movements, so that it is more about that inner conversation with myself that can process those emotions, rather than just like something on a checklist, like, I gotta survive, gotta get out of this burnout, gotta, like, the world is fucked up, gotta survive, gonna do all these exercises, you know. But yeah, trying to really move through and seeing everything as an experience to I don't know, to get to know more of our actual self, and learning that it can be safe to go through those really negative emotions where we don't react with harm or judgment or shame against ourselves, but we actually work through the whole cycle of emotions in order to get to that reasonable emotional endpoint, you know, so that we're not just always forcing ourselves to be like, to say the things and think the things that we should in order to be healed, in order to survive, but we can actually stay with ourselves for where we actually are um in the moment. So anyway, it's probably kind of confusing, but I'm working on speaking, working on expressing these ideas so that it's more easily transmittable, because it is kind of, you know, abstract ideas. Anyway, I hope this is helpful in some kind of way. Take care. Bye.